G'day everyone, and welcome back to another Aussie Investing Machine live stream. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Great to have you all join in on this. This week wanted to talk about a number of different topics. We've seen some movement in the commodities market. A lot of this movement primarily driven by China. So we'll have a look at exactly what they've done to influence the market and where that might go. We'll look at how that's influenced iron ore. We'll look at the story behind coal as well. And then copper's another interesting one, which is worth taking a look at. The other thing I wanted to look at is the crypto market. We'll have a look at the recovery that's happening at the moment. We'll see sort of the key levels, which I'm looking for with Bitcoin and potentially a couple of the other coins, depending on what people are interested in. So we'll get straight into it. I've just got a quick question here from Think Help. Thanks for joining the stream, mate. Did I stake my ADA? No, I haven't yet. I haven't looked into that. I know you did post a link on the last one for some information on that, so it is something I should do. For people who don't know, staking cryptocurrencies is very much like a dividend in terms of traditional investing. Can be quite worthwhile depending on what your goals are. So I might just jump straight into the first article I've got here, which is looking at this issue with China and global commodity prices. So this article summarizes it well. This is the Global Times, so it's obviously a Chinese newspaper. If we have a look at the details here, we've seen a fall in iron ore prices. We can have a look at that here on Market Index. You can see this dip here. We were sort of looking at about 215 a ton, and now we're back down to around that 200 mark, and it's dropped a little bit below that at certain stages as well. So why is this? We know that China's recovery from COVID-19 is primarily led, as it has in the past, by infrastructure spending, and a lot of that requires raw materials in order to produce steel, which they do in-house. So if we have a look at what's been impacting the iron ore price, essentially the iron ore price, as we can see from that chart, has really blown out of proportion. We've seen a lot of almost parabolic price movement, and this is annoying I guess the authorities in China and the government as well, because it's impacting on their recovery, and having the raw commodities so expensive makes it, I guess, less productive or less profitable for a lot of their steel mills, etc. So this article doesn't really touch on the economics of it, but it does talk about how China's planning on tackling it. There's going to be an authority-led crackdown on speculation on prices of iron ore, and also sort of price gouging. So essentially the government's going to be taking a hard line on anyone who's looking to artificially inflate the price, and that includes suppliers as well. So we're talking big miners, Fortescue, BHP, Rio Tinto. Pretty interesting angle. I don't know exactly how they're going to achieve this, and certainly from the Global Times article, it doesn't say much to that effect. In the financial review, it probably gives a bit more detail. Again, it sort of talks about the government clamping down. It talks about the speculation hurting margins and mill margins. It looks, their margins are sitting at US 50 a ton, but they used to be at 265 a ton. So it's not much lower, and they're looking obviously to increase that. So but since this crackdown has been announced, they've already seen, these 20% drops in the cost of steel rebar and coil rolled steel. So it seems to be working, but whether or not it's sustainable is really the question that this article asks. So it says here, but fundamentals for iron ore remain strong, and while prices have fallen heavily in the last few weeks, they're unlikely to keep tumbling. We may not see prices above $200 US again, but they will, hit support in the near term. Essentially, there's still a lot of demand, and Australia, as we know, is a massive producer of iron ore. Wanted to look at coal as well. Apologies, just disable this. So coal is a similar scenario in the sense that China has earlier in the year cracked down on coal, especially Australian exports, and this has, because of the lack of demand and ships being stopped, essentially the coal production has come back, but at the same time coal producers in Australia have been looking for other customers. So what we've seen is a sort of a double effect. One, there's less production, and two, there's an increased demand from a number of different parties, not just China. So we're seeing new highs for the coal price. Now, Market Index doesn't track the coal spot price, but I'm pretty sure it shows it in this article. Perhaps not, but we can look at a company like Whitehaven Coal, for example, who really suffered after COVID, and then in this sort of area from sort of April to May, there was a lot of negative press. We saw the Washington Soul Patts AGM, a lot of heat in that directed at the managers of Washington Soul Patts, who, you know, a lot of their portfolio is in coal, but now we're seeing a rebound. We know a lot of progressive first world countries are trying to push away from coal, but we do know that a lot of third world countries heavily rely on coal, and even first world countries that don't have a lot of land mass like Singapore 100% rely on coal for their energy because they simply don't have the room to build wind farms, solar farms, etc. So it's still got an important role to play. I think if we look at Washington Soul Patts, see their share price, so it's been flat. Probably would expect that to pick up, so that might be, you know, something to watch, especially given this lift in coal prices that we're seeing. So just have a look and see if we've got any comments and queries. Hey, Think Help, hope you're doing well. RFW, thanks for joining the stream. Haven't seen you around too many times before, so yeah, thanks very much for that. Think Help with a super comment, thank you very much. That is a generous donation of $5. Thanks very much, mate. I did get the button working for that, so yeah, really appreciate it. Appreciate all the support on the channel. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe and like the stream. Try to do a live stream every week and then get out a video every now and again. What do I think of high inflation coming to the US? Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Spoke about this a couple of streams ago, but I really think the Federal Reserve in the US is saying that the inflation that we are definitely seeing at the moment, that investors like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger have noted, they're labeling it as transitory inflation, meaning that it's here now, but it will go away. Whether or not that's true is yet to be seen. We're seeing a bit of negative pressure on commodity prices now from things like this China crackdown. But as you can see, if we have a look at something like the price of copper, which is also influenced by the Chinese crackdown, it's been this really parabolic straight line price movement. You know, if you got into copper at the start of the year, you know, for a commodity, that's incredible price movement. We've seen a bit of a drop off here. And this will be what we want to watch. If we see this start to come back down, essentially, yes, the Federal Reserve might be correct. It is only temporary inflation. If it doesn't and it sort of holds the line, looking at this, the next key level of support would be this previous peak at about $4.30. If it holds there and then continues up, potentially, yes, we could be seeing more long-term inflation. I even saw a little bit of news about the RBA and how the cash rate might be coming sooner than expected. So might have to link that article after, but certainly there's some thoughts that the cash rate hikes, which they have promised, I think not until 2023, may come earlier than expected, in an effort to try and sort of rein in some of the spending that we're seeing, which is pushing up the prices of everything, and in turn, I guess that's inflation, isn't it? At its best, the price of goods rising. So, coming back to your question, there is already high inflation in the US. It's whether or not it's lasting. We've certainly seen that in prices of lumber and steel. And what would it mean for global markets? Well, a high inflation market is a tricky one because your investment returns are negatively impacted by inflation. Obviously, they offset each other. And it also means that speculative stocks or growth stocks really suffer, especially if they don't have a strong balance sheet with a lot of profits on the table. Your more value stream stocks, and especially things like your banks, do really well in a high inflation environment. It's worth looking on YouTube. There's some great videos out there. Joe Carlson is one of them, who's a US investor, and he talks about how he's restructuring, Joseph Carlson that is. He's talking about how he's structuring his portfolio for a high inflation environment. So I think it's definitely possible. The way I'm monitoring it is to keep an eye on commodities, and then also, just in my work environment, there's a lot of purchasing of materials like lumber and steel, and that can be another guide. Those things are likely to go up in price first before everything else does, because they're the key inputs. I think Help EV needs a lot of copper. It certainly does. I actually got sent an image by a friend today showing how much copper is actually required for production of items involved in renewables, so especially EVs, but solar panels, importantly as well, require a lot of copper. So interesting to see what the copper price does. Just having a quick look at my portfolio, we can see here iShares, so tracking the S&P 500 is performing the best. I'm overall in the red, which is unfortunate, but considering the year we've had, I think it's understandable. Kogan has been a huge loss, yet to recover. What I'm really happy about is Northern Star, which I was down 30% on. That's now back to 10% down and improving steadily. And the reason that's improving is because the price of gold is doing so well. If you have a look at the gold price, we can see this rapid rise. And if that continues, all the better for gold miners like Northern Star. Probably wanted to talk next a little bit about crypto. So let's have a look at the Bitcoin chart. Oh dear. Apologies for this. I haven't signed in. See if I can get this going. Bear with me for a moment. Alrighty. Is that us in now? Yeah, beautiful. So, having a look on the daily chart for Bitcoin, we can see this massive recovery which we've had so far. Sort of from the lows, if we have a look, sort of down at this level here, we are already up about 37%, which is a huge recovery. Obviously a long way to go to get back to the peaks of 64K. I think it's probably, there's two things that I like to look at which are really important indicators. If we have a look at like a fib retracement and we go from these lows over here up to the last peak and pull that over, we can see these levels of resistance. So we can see at the bottom we got very close to this previous low of 28K. It sort of bounced off there, broke through the 36K mark, and our next level of resistance is the 42.5K. So that's what I'm really going to be looking at, a breakthrough there, and I will be definitely buying some Bitcoin. But the other metric that I'm looking at, importantly, which I talk about a lot, is the MACD. So if we bring up the MACD, we can see here on the daily, I might just change the settings on this. to a 20 and 50. So yeah, we can see here I'm waiting for the bullish cross on the MACD, which is when these two lines cross and we head in this direction, like we can see back here. Obviously, if you look on the chart when that was from that bullish cross point, we're sort of looking at here. Apologies, and then bring it to the next point, which is about here. And that's when the lines reversed. We can see that was about a 43% gain. They mark good entry points. Obviously, if you bought in at that point, you'd be back pretty much to where you were. But they are good market entry points. And this was certainly one that was trading above the equilibrium line. If we go back to another one, which wasn't, obviously that's way back in time now. It would have been somewhere back here when Bitcoin was at 10 grand. So you can work out what sort of multiple you'd be at by then. But I really think this is a good opportunity. If we look at the volume now, it's really picking up, but we want to see a continuation of that volume for the price to continue. Another coin that I really like the look of is Cardano, which is a third generation cryptocurrency, and it's almost back to where it was. So it's had a fantastic bull run, struggling to break the $2 mark, and then it did. Sort of met some resistance, came back down. This was the Bitcoin crash, or the whole crypto market crash, and since then it's come back up, and you can see this massive candle, but we're lacking a little bit of volume. So hopefully the run can continue. We saw a sort of positive tweet out of Elon as well. So that's sort of helping the market move. But as I said, I'm watching those key Fibonacci levels on Bitcoin and the MACD before I'm investing more dollars into crypto. Having a look at something like Internet Computer, which I think is a really promising coin. We can see here sort of off to a, is this my correct coin? Yeah, so pretty new. Have a look into the background of Internet Computer. I think it's a really promising coin. Not a lot of data on it at the moment, but we can see it is in the top 10 in terms of market cap. So a lot of backing behind it. Certainly one to look at. I would recommend checking out Internet Computer. Did I look into ADA staking yet? No, I haven't. I just explained at the start of the video, it's definitely something to look into because it is essentially dividends for crypto, and certainly well worth looking into. Think help, I know I should, and when I find some time I will. I took a small top up on ADA when it dipped below $1.70, so let's come back to ADA. So you got in at $1.70. Just having a look on the 4 hourly. Yes, that's a pretty good entry point. So you're sort of coming in. Let's have a look. Get a horizontal line. Sort of around that mark. Sweet. I wonder, did you get in, around the 21st, 20th of May, or are you just coming in now? Yeah, sort of key level of resistance for ADA is definitely this bottom here, and then this previous peak just there at $1.90. If it could break through there, that would be fantastic. It'd be good to see how that lines up with the fib. Let's have a look. Yeah, so there's our key levels there. We're just sort of hitting our head on this $1.76, which is the 0.5 or 50% Fibonacci level. So that's why we're seeing a bit of resistance there, which is normal. I guess we want to see a bit of consolidation before it goes again for the next target, which is bang on $1.92. So that's what to look for, I guess, with fib. On the MACD, we can see that's on the 4 hourly. If we back it out to the daily, which is a bit better for the MACD, some interesting things happening here. We've actually had a bearish cross on the MACD, and it looks like from the bars that's sort of fading out. We can see a similar pattern here. But again, before re-entering, I'd be watching for a bullish cross on the MACD 20 and 50 EMA. So that's what I'd be looking at. Of course, this video is not financial advice whatsoever. Please do your own research. These are just my personal thoughts and opinions, but I'd love to hear your comments if you've got them. ADA looks to have inverse HNS. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. As much as I like Bitcoin, I think you'll get a better return from Ethereum based on my own research. Yeah, well, Ethereum's certainly more useful in practice, and it's probably got a longer, in terms of percentage gains, you'll probably get more out of Ethereum, but whether or not it's as stable as Bitcoin, not that any of the cryptocurrencies are particularly stable. Look, my strategy is to have a bit of both. I agree with you. On the 1 hour time frame, yep, we'll have a look at that in a sec. Charles, when's Polynovo's result going to be released? Yeah, so that's a good point. If we have a look at the PNV price, certainly not performing as well as expected at the moment. So I think I entered at about 270, around about this mark here, back in March. Or perhaps it was the 270 might have been this dip here at the end of March. We had a good boost up over $3, which was fantastic, but then it's been pretty miserable since then. We are waiting on some more news. If we have a look at market index, it'll tell us when the next announcements are. So great place to go. Polynovo, so down 10 cents on when I got in. If we have a look at their announcements, so we did have a bit of news here. That's some time ago, but it should give us an idea of upcoming. So here we go. So not till August we get their preliminary report. So it could be a few months of waiting. Maybe it's a good time to top up at the levels we're at. But yeah, I'm expecting good things out of this preliminary report. I think the company's pretty strong, ultra high profit margins on their product, which is this sort of artificial dermis, the NovoSorb product. I really like the look of Polynovo long term. So hopefully that preliminary report will have the results that we're looking for, and it will give this company a big boost. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see. I know their US expansion is going pretty well, so Polynovo is certainly one I'm keen on, and it looks to be pretty cheap at the moment. If you're looking for an ADA staking pool, check out WA US. Very happy with returns and low fees. Thanks for that tip off, and for everyone else as well. Cool. Okay, well, I might wrap it up there. It's been a great live stream once again. Thanks for all of your comments. Thank you especially to Think Help for that super comment. I really appreciate that. And I promise you by next week I will have done my full research into staking of ADA. I think it's probably worthwhile that I do that. So I hope everyone's had a good week so far, and that you enjoyed the rest of your week. Looks like here in Melbourne we might be in a bit of trouble in terms of COVID-19. I had a test today myself actually, and fortunately that was a negative result, so thank goodness. But yeah, we're having dramas here, so I reckon we might be due for a lockdown over the weekend. See how we go, but either way, stay safe out there, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining, and of course like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.